Have we reached the point, I think we have, where it is absolutely like essential for the survival of the United States and frankly the world. I mean, we're talking about everything from global warming to international relations to avoiding World War III to avoiding another second Great Depression. I mean, is it time now for even the Republicans, well, obviously it's time, but I mean, will they pick it up? For even the Republicans to say, this guy is poison. He is poisoning our body politic. He lies every day. He commits crimes right out in the open. I mean, he goes to Iraq. There's this law called the Hatch Act, right? The Hatch Act says that you may not use government facilities or government resources for political purposes. You can't do it. So, at the very least, and there's this old saying that politics ends at the water's edge. No American president, to the best of my knowledge, and maybe I'm missing one time that this happened or something, but I don't think so. To the best of my knowledge, no American president has ever gone overseas to meet with the troops and used that as an opportunity to trash his political opponents and name their party, to engage in partisan attack, and not just attacks, lies. Donald Trump saying, the Democrats, he won't even call it the Democratic Party, which is its real name, the Democrat Party. The Democrats, they want open borders. They don't want a wall. They like terrorism. Seriously? I mean, these are not just lies. These are the worst kinds of lies. And they are told to our troops, who cannot contradict their commander-in-chief, on an international platform. The entire world is watching as you're lying about your political opposition. This is something that you would expect from el-Sisi in Egypt or Erdogan in Turkey. This is what dictators do. This is not what presidents of the United States do. Not only that, I mean, Tom Friedman has this piece out in the New York Times today. And in this piece, Tom Friedman is saying, hey, it's time for Republicans to impeach Trump. Now, when the most Republican Democrat out there, Tom Friedman, neoliberal to the bottom of his shoes, comes out and says, okay, guys, this is it. We've gone over the edge. Then we've really gone over the edge. And one of the things Friedman points out is that it's not just Trump, it's the people he surrounds himself with. And I'm not talking about, and Friedman's not talking about necessarily, I don't know specifically, but about all of his people who have gone to prison, Papadopoulos, or are about to, Papadopoulos, Flynn, Cohen, et cetera, but the people who have, the people that he has hired. He's got an acting attorney general in defiance of the law. The only time in the history of the United States that a president put a cabinet secretary, which the Constitution says requires Senate confirmation before they can begin their duties. The only time in the history of the United States this happened was by Andrew Johnson after the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, when he put his guy into that position. And that was one of the things that they impeached him for. It's like, so he's got that. He's got Mike Pompeo in as Secretary of State. The guy is a right-wing whack job. Friedman refers to these guys as the B team. He says no other administration would even consider hiring these people. And our Secretary of State is giving speeches now about how he's going to keep fighting the good fight until the rapture? Seriously? Sean, if you could pot up the Nate needs to feed this. Yeah, if you want to play that clip, Nate, yeah, the TriCaster, thank you.
It was a remarkable moment. We are blessed to live in Kansas where there are so many people that understand that. We will continue to fight these battles. It is a never-ending struggle until that moment Pastor Fox spoke about, until the rapture. Be part of it. Be in the fight.
Honest to God, not making this up. You can find it all over Twitter and on the internet and whatnot. So, I guess the question I'm asking, or wondering or whatever, is which is worse? Trump's lies Trump's essential moral corruption, Trump's inability to empathize, Trump's inability to understand, Trump's inability, I was talking about this yesterday, his inability to know what's even appropriate when talking to a 7-year-old, for goodness sakes? Is that the worst part, or is it his criminality? Because Friedman is by and large addressing his insanity. Mueller is investigating his criminality. The Trump crime family, the way that, and the New York Times has been all over this forever, right? You know, how Trump, bragged that he had a $1 million loan from his father. No, he took over $400 million, and none of it was loans. He kept it from his father, and then he pissed it all away and went bankrupt over and over and over again, to the point where the only way that his little, 15-person company could even survive was by laundering money for foreign oligarchs. So, in your mind, what is, which is doing more damage to the United States? His criminality? Well, obviously you can have both at the same time, right? We can't walk and chew gum. We can't have, it's just, there was a tweet about Trump's trip to Iraq, which is another thing. What was the most outrageous thing he did in Iraq? He lied about the Democrats and the border wall, as I ranted about earlier. He lied about getting them a 10% pay raise. This is incredible. He says, you haven't gotten a raise in more than 10 years, and we got you a big one. I got you a big one. And then he talks about, they came to me and they said, can you make it, we can make it 3%, we can make it 2%, we can make it 4%. And I said, no, make it 10%, make it more than 10%. He says, make it, and it's a lie. Bill Kristol retweets this and says it's a lie. It's obviously it's a lie. It's the military, the troops have gotten a raise every year for the last 10 years. Every year it's been between 1 and 3.9%. This year it's going to be 2.6%, or this coming year, 2019. He's just lying through his teeth. Friedman makes the point that this last week was the breaking point for him. And he doesn't explicitly say exactly what it was, but I'm guessing it was Syria. Thomas Friedman pays attention to international relations, and yeah, he's a neoliberal. I don't think he's a neocon. And this isn't about, oh gee, we need to stay in Syria, we need to fight Assad or whatever. It's not about that at all. It's about, do you embrace an ally, and specifically in this case the Syrian Kurds, and then have them do your fighting for you over a several-year period, and have thousands of them die, and then just dump on them, destroy them. Friedman writes, and again, when Thomas Friedman is talking like this in the New York Times, you know that there's something, there's a lot of Republicans who pay attention to Thomas Friedman. He says, I believe the only responsible choice for the Republican Party today is an intervention with the president that makes clear that if there's not a radical change in how he conducts himself, and I think that's unlikely, the party's leadership will have no choice but to press for his resignation or join calls for his impeachment. And it has to start with the Republicans. And he's right about that. If you're going to have a conviction in the Senate, you got to have 66 votes. And that means you're going to have Republican votes. Friedman writes, Trump's behavior has become so erratic, his lying so persistent, his willingness to fulfill the basic functions of the presidency, like reading briefing books, consulting government experts before making major changes, appointing a competent staff, so absent. His readiness to accommodate Russia and spurn allies so disturbing, and his obsession with himself and his ego over all other considerations so consistent. 2 more years of him in office could pose a real threat to our nation. What, you think the first 2 years didn't damage our nation? The New York Times has a great piece today about just, how the damage that Trump has done to the environment with his deregulatory agenda. That for some reason, some of the people on MSNBC love to talk about, well, his deregulation is helping the economy. No, it's poisoning us. And no, it doesn't help the economy. If you got to put scrubbers on a coal-fired power plant, somebody has the job designing them, somebody gets the job manufacturing them, somebody gets the job installing them, somebody gets the job periodically cleaning them. Regulations actually generally increase employment rather than decrease employment. Just, this is common sense. But in any case, He says, and he's talking about the disengagement. This is what makes me think that Syria is the thing that pushed Friedman over the top. He says, the last time America disengaged from the world remotely in this manner was in the 1930s. And you remember what followed, World War II, right? We ignored what Germany was doing. In fact, many Americans embraced what Germany was doing. The whole American first, thing, with Lucky Lindy, Charles Lindbergh, and just this, the German-American Bund, 500,000 German Americans out there, wearing swastikas and saluting. And we just kind of, it was a Republican administration, or it was a series of them. Harding, Coolidge, Hoover. And what was their concern? It wasn't, well, that was the 20s, actually. The early 30s, I guess that was FDR. We were so busy trying to get out of the Republican Great Depression that we weren't attending to what went on. The turning back of the USS Liberty, the ship with Jews trying to flee Germany, one of the great stains in our history, that happened during FDR's presidency. But it led to World War II. I mean, are we setting up the destruction of the planet by war? Or are we setting up the slower but more inexorable destruction of the planet by climate change? It seems like, Trump is committed to doing both. Friedman makes the point that this is, there's a minimum decorum and stability that we expect from our president. And he talks about if the CEO of any public company had behaved like Trump over the last 2 years, constantly lying, tossing out aides like they were Kleenex, tweeting endlessly like a teenager, ignoring the advice of experts, the board of directors would have taken him out and fired him. Right? I mean, Elon Musk does one or two kind of weird tweets, and he nearly loses his company. Trump? Nah. What do we do? What's the worst part of this? Where is this going to end up? What do you think?